Good morning, Royce. Can you confirm you're online?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's 9:01 a.m. I'd like to convene the November 14th APAC meeting, and could we have a roll call, please?
Good morning. So we're going to start with Matt Mayton.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Royce Larson.
Here.
David Lackey.
Here.
Sergio Ricardo.
Present.
And then we have full quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is the time in our agenda. If there's anybody in public or on Zoom or on Teams that would like to speak on any item that's not on our today's agenda.
If you're online and wish to speak on an item not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Not seeing any public comment, and we do not have anybody in the audience.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on, we'll consider the minutes of our October 10th, 2024 meeting. The committee members have any suggested revisions or edits?
I know this is very minor, Mr. Chair, but on reports of committee members, my only suggestion is to capitalize county clerk, recorder, and assessor. Only comment.
Okay. Let's see, any others, Alex? Matt? Royce, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure, I can make the motion to approve the October 10, 2024 minutes as amended.
I'll second. Oh,
Go ahead.
I think I beat you there, Royce. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
We'll start with Matt Mayton.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Vote carries 5-0 to approve the minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then as far as agenda management, I know we received one email request for continuance, and that was for our continued item number 3, Convinia Vineyard Estates special events. I'm not sure if Francisco Vargas is here in attendance.
I do see him online, but I also did get the notification via email that they would like to continue the item to the December hearing.
Okay. Just to add to the email, I mean, the agent for the owners had requested the continuance and or if the APAC was interested in bifurcating the motion. And so I just wanted to disclose that. So, I mean, if the committee is comfortable with just continuing the entirety rather than pursuing sort of a bifurcation of looking at special events separately from the ongoing eligibility.
I think for me, in this case, I would just defer to the applicant or the property owner.
I'll just continue.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my preference is just to continue.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we continue item number 3, Convinia Vineyard Estates, to our December APAC meeting at the request of the applicant.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comments on the continuance?
If you're online and wish to speak in an item not listed or on you're online and you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing a raised hand. We do not have any public comment.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Matt Mayton,
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
And then vote carries 5-0 to continue the item to the December hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now we'll move into our continued items section of the agenda. So I guess a little continuation of agenda management. Since item number 1 and 2 are related to our new item number 4, I suggest that we come back to those 2 items after we've considered item number 4, which is the application for the Ag Preserve Replacement Contract. So if everybody's comfortable with that,
Or, yeah, you mean just hold
we'll just hold off
off on
on
these two
until we
until we hear the,
hear item, new item number 4.
that works perfectly for me.
Okay, so with that, I think that moves us into our new items, which the first new item is number 4, Tompkins Ranch Ag Preserve Replacement Contract. And Adam Orta is the planner. I'm not sure if Adam is here, if he can give a quick overview of the material.
Does not look like Adam is online.
Is Mr. Tompkins or any representatives for Tompkins Ranch in attendance?
Yes, we do. Carrie?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Carrie Morganson with MBS Land Surveys, and I'm representing Mr. Tompkins today. So actually, I don't know, can I do a share screen? And put the map up of the contract area?
I think we might have that in the our folder. Teresa, is that?
Okay, we actually would like to do 2 separate contracts here. I don't believe Mr. Tompkins had brought that up before. We would like to place the larger portion, which on the map I'm looking at, I'm not sure what you guys are looking at, is APN's 113-270-013 and APN 113-280-0110, which is the larger portion and the portion to the east of the railroad track as one contract, and then put the portion to the west of the railroad track in a separate contract. The problem with that is the portion west of the railroad track is not quite 100 acres. It's only about 80 acres. So I'm not sure if that would qualify.
Yeah, just a couple of things. So what is in our agenda now is just an application for a single ag preserve contract. So if that was an interest of the owner, that's not what the current application is based on. So that would need to be revised and resubmit a separate application. But for you said the 80 acres, that would have to qualify as a prime contract. So grazing, you couldn't have a separate grazing contract less than 100 acres. So you would have to demonstrate that you could have, you'd have to have 50% of that parcel in commercial ag production. So you'd have to have a planting plan and some type of demonstration that you can meet that requirement. So that's an additional hurdle. And I don't believe this area had been in cultivation. It's mostly always been a grazing operation. So it may be a challenge.
Yeah, that's correct. It's always been grazing, and I'm not sure that the 80 acres would meet prime farmland.
It would have to just have crops, either row crops or vineyards or orchards planted. You just couldn't have a less than 100 acre grazing operation.
Okay, writing that down. Thank you. Is there not, I have to admit, I'm not all that familiar with the uniform rules, but, I thought I had come across something yesterday that said it may be possible to put it under ag preserve as a separate contract if it was connected to another ag preserve. But even though it was a little less than 80 acres, is that not correct?
Those references are for, the Williamson Act requires you to have a minimum of 40 acres. So those provisions that you were looking at were probably
Okay.
those situations that were less than 40 acres that they could, like if you had a 20-acre parcel and there was an adjacent contract where you could collectively at least meet that 40 acres.
Okay,
I mean, technically, I mean, you wouldn't need to have that provision to have a 80-acre if it qualified as prime, but it would have to qualify with the commercial ag production as prime. You couldn't have a less than 100-acre ag preserve contract that is a non-prime grazing contract.
okay. Understood. Okay, I guess now I go back to you. I'm not sure what the next step is. As it stands now, do we qualify as just the one contract for all the area?
Well, that's what we're agendized to look at. And we haven't come to that decision, but I guess our question to you is, do you want to pull this item because the landowner is interested in doing two contracts, or would you want us to proceed with an indication for a single new contract for all of the parcels?
I think, let's pull it. I think that, at this point, just so we can explore that other option, it came up kind of late in the game, but if we really want to do that, I think that we should wait. Because if we proceed now and it's all in one, then you would have to try to separate them, and that would just be more difficult. So, yes, I would agree to pulling the item at this point.
Okay, any comments or thoughts from committee members of how to proceed?
I would agree to change or have it pulled and brought back as a resubmission, but still that 80 acres would be, they'd have to deal with that some way. I.e. take another parcel to add to that 80 acres or something along those lines to qualify.
Or perhaps consider qualifying that as prime contract. I don't know how is the situation there as far as growing crops or irrigation, but that would be something to consider as a challenge.
Sir Juju?
I'm okay with that, but I do have actually another point of view, which I want you guys to look at this with me. I'm thinking that this item, and not only I'm sure that Mr. Tompkins and this property will be replaced. I shouldn't, the other portion, but it's the same contract. There's a portion of this contract that is most likely not going to be replaced. So I'm always struggling with the amount of time that it takes to move these things into non-renewal. I know that I'm pretty sure a portion of this, like I said, a portion of this contract is going to go into non-renewal. The non-renewal process is a long process. And if we decided today that the contract goes into non-renewal, these requests go to the Board of Supervisors typically in October. So there's like a long time from now to October to give both parties essentially the opportunity to replace the contract or not replace the contract in however manner they want to do it. They want to do 2, they want to do 3, but at least we're already in this process. Like there's already a decision that it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be, it's not going to be effective, on January 1st, 2025, as an example. So I just want to have this conversation with the committee members, see what they think. Again, I don't want to be rushing these things through the process, but at the same time, the process is a slow one. And always think that sometimes it just takes too long to make these things happen. And if there's no rush on our part, there's not going to be any rush on anybody's part either. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up. I'm okay either way. This is not I would be voting in favor of a continuance if the committee decided, but anyway, I wanted to bring this
Thank you, Sergio.
Yeah, I agree with Sergio as far as the time. This is the longest period of time in November this year to have to process a non-renewal until the end of the next October next year. So we got pretty long stretch there to work with, and this is I just wanted to make one point and give an information to the committee and to the applicant that might be useful. Our office received, surveyor's office received an application and petition for voluntary merger that involves parcels 18 and 19 of this of the application, and we denied the merger application because of the 2 parcels being separated by a public road. However, I just wanted to make a point. Our uniform rules allow for contracts to basically have parcels that are separated by public roads. We still consider those parcel contiguous. And that's probably a valuable information for the applicant when they are making their decision about the contract. So I wanted to add that.
Oh, that's good to know, because I had assumed that the merger had gone through. So thanks for providing that information.
No, we had discussions, and the determination was we couldn't make that finding regarding the subdivision map act. But as far as the uniform rules, I believe we have that in our definition as a possibility. So I don't think it would stop multiple parcels being in the contract.
the one contract. So did you say, Alex, parcel 18 and 19 are?
Well, yeah,
those-
yes, I did say that, but also there are certificate of compliance applications that were processed by our office, and the configuration of legal parcels does not match the APNs. So basically, you can see the Point Sal Road there that goes up north through that northwesterly corner. So there is a piece of property that's, I believe, part of 19 or 18, sorry. 19 is a small piece that is basically a separate parcel, legal parcel. So it's just an information that probably should not affect our
And to,
decision-making here. Or, but it might be helpful to the applicant.
to clarify, yeah, parcel 19 is currently not in contract.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay. So
outside.
only 18, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's,
so,
and I don't know if there was any desire to bring that into the.
so they can bring it in. I agree with you, Alex, that the road is not a problem when, according to the uniform rules. So, yeah, there's no issue in bringing 19 into contract. But yeah, if there's all these other things going on about the merger and
So question for you, Alex, on, obviously, so this is a new application, 24 AGP 14 for the replacement contract. As part of that application, does the surveyor look at the external boundaries? And so the external boundaries, you didn't have any concern about. It was more either within it, the
Correct.
the merger
Number
parcel
of
and
legal
the
parcels.
certificate of compliance for that other parcel.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, and actually, this brings up a question. Do we consider this a replacement contract? Because now it is including one parcel that was not in the original contract.
Yeah, sorry, I need to correct myself. So the merger was considering parcel 18, but I don't think this application has parcel 18 anywhere. Oh, it does.
It does
actually.
have
Yes.
18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, parcel 18 is,
Okay.
that's part of the original contract. The only one parcel that is not part of the original contract is 19.
Oh, okay. Oh, so yeah, that's the old question, replacement. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's
it
the
doesn't make-
terminology. You're right. I mean,
Yeah.
technically,
Would be
as it
in-
relates to the original contract number, they're replacing everything that they own, except, the Chevron is their own. And so I
Right.
think
Right.
we would
Yeah.
still call it as a replacement contract.
Right.
So
Perhaps Kelly has something to add. I don't know if there's. The applicant.
yeah, Carrie, do you have any other comments or questions for us? I mean, I think we're leaning to just continuing it to December, but if you have any questions or comments, and certainly encourage you and to talk, and they have Mr. Tompkins reach out to discuss your options with the planner. But do you have any other questions for us that at this point in time?
I do. Just, okay, if we're leaning towards continuing, I would appreciate that. I realize the project's been going on since April, but I just got brought on early this week. So that would give me time to catch up and maybe it would be continued till December, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then I could talk with the planner and we could have a full package ready to go in December.
Correct. So if with those discussions and information, if Mr. Tompkins decides just go forward with the single ag preserve contract, that's what the package is that we have. So that way the continuance, there really isn't that much that would need to be done. But if there's a decision to try to do two separate contracts, then that would take a different pathway, and it's likely that you'll need to resubmit, revise your current application because there's different boundaries and different parcels involved, and then you'd have to get a new separate application for the second contract. But all of that can be discussed when you reach out to the planner.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
Are there any members of the public that have any comments on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, great. Then I'll move that we continue item number 4 to our December APAC meeting to provide time for the applicant to work with the planner on their proposed ag preserve contract.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Matt Maton,
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Dave Lackey,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Royce Larson,
Aye.
and then vote carries 5-0 to continue the item.
Okay, great. Thank you. So for cleanup, I guess if we can go back to our continued items as a necessity, and hopefully council, we can just take an action to continue both item number 1 and 2 at the same time. So since they're related, they're the parcels involved in the current contract. So I would recommend,
Mr.
oh,
Just so I forget, I forgot the previous motion to mention, to remind, is it Carrie?
Yes,
We just need to give the property owner a reminder to comply with responding to the annual questionnaire. They haven't responded in the last few years, so just a reminder that this is also part of compliance requirements. So
okay,
there's an annual questionnaire. It'll be mailed in January, so it's coming up. And we just need to have that responded to. Thank you.
noted and thank you.
okay, great. So we're talking about continuing items number 1, which is Casamalia Land and Cattle Company. And then item number 2 was the Chevron USA Inc., all of the parcels involved in the current contract 70 AP 062. So I would make a motion that we continue this item until the December APAC meeting.
David, before we make the motion, would you like to review public comment?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Just for the record, we do not have any public comment.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second for continuance?
I'll second.
Oh, I think Sergio got in there, so we'll go
There you
with
go.
Sergio.
The next one, Royce.
Yeah, so we have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Matt Mayton.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson,
Aye.
David Lackey,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
and then vote carries 5-0 to continue the item to the December hearing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on to our new items, new item number 5, which is Heartbeat LLC. So just as a reminder, this was an item and in our packet of information where we had requested the chair send a notice to appear for the property. It was related to, I think, to one of the Verizon properties or applications that we had bifurcated previously. I talked with the chair yesterday and looking at both the notice to appear and as we have the information in the agenda, contract 91 AP 006 actually consists of 2 parcels.
Correct.
And so only one of those parcels was mentioned in both the agenda and notice to appear. So the chair had acknowledged that and recommended that she'll probably she'll need to resend the notice to appear.
So, Mr. Chair, at this point, I'd like to provide a little more information. So, I reviewed the contract status. This contract is already in non-renewal. So technically, this committee has already determined that they're in non-compliance. So I would actually suggest in this case that we drop the item. It's already in non-renewal. It will come out, according to my records, it will be out of contract. Let me just check. I think it's in its second year of non-renewal. I don't have it in my notes. Yeah, okay, yeah, here it is. It will be out in January 1 of 2028. So it's already non-renewal. I don't know. They're already determined to be in non-compliance. we can just drop it.
Yeah, thank you for that information. I wasn't aware of that. Any other comments or thoughts from committee members?
Well, it's a good point. I mean, if it's already in non-renewal, why continue?
Well, technically, we're supposed to still to request or require that the eligibility requirements are met. So that's the argument. Do we want to continue to make the point that they still need to comply and provide the information that we're requesting? I don't think based on their response rate from them, I don't think they'll respond.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think, as far as that, I think if we had that information that they were in non-renewal while we were considering the application, we would probably had a different take on it.
Correct.
The point that we're at now is, yeah, there isn't any other measure to address because they already are in non-renewal. So I think as far as you're correct, it's,
We could also wait, if we're sending out a new notice to appear, we could wait for that and then drop it. Don't respond to that. We're just not send out another notice.
I think that was what the point was, is that
Yeah.
there really is, it's a moot point to send out the notice to appear for what purpose? Either to try to keep banging the drum that they submit the annual report, which they haven't done in 6 or more years.
Well, I guess the committee still can send a letter from the committee, basically notifying the owner that they are still under uniform rules required to, not uniform rules, but then under Williamson Act. Send to the assessors, right?
They have like basically 3 full years.
Is that under, it's not under uniform rules. Is that under Williamson Act or is?
We have in Rule 6, we have
Oh,
the
okay.
requirement to provide information.
Oh, okay.
And in January, they're going to get the annual questionnaire that the assessor's office sends.
Mhm.
And we've made some changes to our cover letter to make it more clear that requirements.
But also from the committee, there should be probably a response reminding them that they are.
Absolutely, I agree.
And then if they don't respond, we kind of put it on their side. If we stay quiet as the committee, then it's probably
Non-renewal since 2019. So now they'll have until 2028.
So I think what I heard is that there may be value for the chair to send the notice to appear, but amend the content slightly, because I think the current content was still relevant to the non-responsiveness of the annual report and compliance with Uniform Rule 6. The consequence, I think, of potential non-renewal is not valid, and so I think she would amend the notice to appear, but
Yeah,
you
I
think
was
there's still.
thinking more, send a letter, a notice to remind them that they are still required to comply with the uniform rules. I don't even think there's value in sending notice to appear.
I think you may make a good point, Alex. I agree with you. I think this committee should still strive to have everybody meet the requirements, everybody that's on, in the program. So maybe if the letter is worded a little differently, we understand that you're something like adding, like, we understand your contract is a non-renewal, but you still need to comply, kind of thing.
I guess my take is that, as you had mentioned, our response rate is down in the 60s or the 50s. And so that could be several hundred, if we were to take a programmatic approach, there's probably hundreds of contracts that are in the same situation that deserve a reminder.
Okay, is that an option?
Well, I think that's I think that, certainly is something for the low rate of response that could be discussed separately, but I
Or is
think,
this more kind of following your department's policy not to initiate any?
I guess the point I was trying to make is
Okay,
where we are right now. We had directed the chair to send the notice of appeal because we were under the assumption that they're still under contract. And so that is not the case. And so I think collectively, the notice of appeal, we agree that that's not necessary. And then to send this property owner another different letter, I think is, one, I think it's a moot point because they haven't demonstrated compliance for 6 or more years. And then it relates to what I was trying to characterize. It's like, why are we going through another administrative effort just for this person when it's related to a bigger issue that maybe we try to address and discuss different ways of getting compliance?
well, I agree 100%. Yeah, it's probably something to put on the agenda and discuss if we want to act on the rest of the contracts that don't comply with that.
Right. And it could be part of maybe a month ago or so at the board. I mean, there was when planning and development at the end of the year when we normally have many of the non-renewals on the A agenda, that was recognized by several board members and had questions about the program. And so I believe there's interest in working with the CEO's office and departments to provide a briefing for the board sometime next year on the overall program and then some of those components in terms of, non-compliance or, ways to, for people that are skirting the rules but getting the benefits, how do we address those? And so that could be, I anticipate that'll be an item that might be addressed.
Board's
Right.
policy to make a decision, right?
Right.
As far as retaining the properties in the contract, which is
Right, and I would assume that, I think Sergio had provided us a briefing maybe last year or something about Ventura County's change that they established for kind of non-compliance with the annual reports, and it was very, I won't say draconian. It was very, strict and to the point. And so that could be a pathway that, I would assume that the information provided to the board was what do other jurisdictions do? And that's an example. So,
I agree 100%.
think-
So let's drop.
yes.
An option available to you under 6.1.7 is the board can recommend to the Board of Supervisors a legal action because they are in breach of contract. So if you have landowners who are habitually violating the uniform rules in this non-renewal period, within that 10 years, you can recommend to the board to bring a breach of contract action. That's kind of your extreme. I mean, that is the option.
Yeah, that's a very extreme action to take.
Well, I agree with you, David. So it probably doesn't make sense to continue correspondence if we don't have the response. So.
I think kind of, combination of factors. That's where I would lean in terms of towards the end of their, granted, they still have to comply for another 3 years. But I think it's a good example that likely will be part of the conversation when this is discussed at the board next year. So I think for this item, so it sounds like the request is just to drop. I think just to
That would be
drop the
my-
item.
That would be my motion to drop this
Okay.
item from the agenda.
Right. So we have a motion to drop this item from the agenda. I'll second that. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, roll call, please.
Matt Mayton.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
And the vote carries 5-0 to drop the item from the agenda.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving on to number 6, this is Claxton Vineyards. Request to consider a new agricultural accessory barn with attached equipment storage. Francisco Vargas is the planner. And Zachary Ulrich is the agent for the property owner. Do we have Francisco or the agent available to give any information?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I guess I'll give a quick rundown on the project. I've never done an APAC hearing before. It's usually Brett Jones is taking the wheel for me on those. So I'm the draftsman, designer on the project. If we move down, we could probably just jump to page 3, which will show you some photos of the development area. The area where we're proposing to do a new ag structure with attached equipment storage is just weeds, as you see. It's not part of the existing vineyard area. And if we move down to the next page, you can see a site plan with an aerial overlay. I've placed some like that hatch pattern on the area of the existing vineyard and the square footage of that. As far as I can see, there's 2 parcels. One of them is prime and one of them's not. I wasn't provided with any of the existing ag preserve contract information. So I've placed the square footage of vineyard there, which will not be changing or impacted at all by the project. If you zoom in, you can see the area of development there, where we're placing the barn and the driveways that wrap around. We will be making a slight change to the driveway. If you see the hammerhead to the south, after some preliminary design with the civil engineer, we've decided to rotate the hammerhead so that the turnout portion of it would be rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. So the driveway will actually protrude less toward the vineyard to the east. And I'm not sure if it's important to you guys, but if we scroll down, we can see more detailed floor plans and elevations and renderings of the structure. And that is about it.
Teresa, can you go back up to that one? Yeah. So Zachary, on this, just to kind of simplify it. So looks like the center portion is open for equipment storage. Is that correct? And then on to the west side, you've got 2 offices and then sort of covered storage.
Yeah. So this is the second floor. It's a mezzanine. So there's a railing there. You can see the call out. So it's open to the bottom floor. If you scroll up, you'll see the first floor plan on the previous page. But yeah, that's the second floor. So this is the first floor, which is completely open for storage. And then there's a bathroom and a stairway leading up to that second floor that we're viewing.
Do
And
you
then
know, oh, go ahead.
the site is has some slope to it. So the equipment storage there to the west is about 6 feet. The finished floor of the equipment storage is a 6-foot offset from the barn area. So we'll be doing some grading and cutting into the hillside to create that storage area below. And go ahead, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just curious, what did they do now for their equipment storage? Is it on in either of these two parcels, or how do
Yeah.
they manage that?
Well, we have, if you go up to the site plan, you can see there's a small barn equipment shed there. It's the structure to the west of our
Right, the
proposed structure.
lower southwest corner?
Yeah. So that's what they're using now, and then which is quite small. And then so this would be obviously to increase equipment. I'm not sure the details of I think that they must keep some of the equipment off site because that shed's quite small. So this would be beneficial to the vineyard in several ways.
And then just maybe it was in the materials that I didn't pick up on, but in terms of how many planted acres of vineyards on the two parcels?
If you scroll up on the site plan a little bit, it's right there. 48.4. And that's
for both on the
that's for both.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's all that hatched area that you see.
Okay. Do you know, so sort of looking at the kind of turnaround or roundabout enter to the residence just north of there's sort of an area that looks like it's might have been some trees or orchards. You know what is going on there?
I don't.
Like
I've
it's
only
fenced in.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's part of the like garden area for the residents, or was that some other commercial agriculture?
I'm not sure. I can provide more information on that if we're talking about I'm guessing that you guys are going to have other comments. So
yeah, we'll have a running list of things. And so I just was looking at, this is more for my fellow committee members, but just as far as the winery itself, looks like it was approved for 20,000 case production. And so looking at our requirements, would they have 48 acres? That clearly exceeds the 50% that they would need. I think they would need like 33 acres to meet our requirements. So they clearly meet those requirements as far as the vineyard supporting the winery. And then I do have some questions just later on the calculation of the non-ag development envelope and what's in and what's out. But any other questions or comments from committee members?
I have a question, and maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but in our agenda, it says the property is 34.8 acres, but we were just shown that 48 are planted.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges that we still are working with the planners on. So since the application was for the barn, they just referenced the acreage and the APN for the barn when they should do both, including the contract parcel APNs and acreage. So the contract itself is the northerly parcel, which is almost fully planted in vineyards.
Okay.
And then the southerly parcel, which has the application that has the winery in the house and the application for the barn.
Okay.
Royce, yeah, just to clarify, it is a contract that is composed of two APNs.
Okay.
The one parcel that's not listed on the agenda is parcel 141-460-001. The one that's on the agenda is 002, which is the southern portion of the entire contract. And altogether, the contract is 69.36 acres
Okay,
per assessor's record. So one of the they're almost identical in size, 34.82 for parcel 2 and 34.54 acres for parcel 1.
okay. Great, thank you.
And so your second comment was that you'd like to see the area calculations of the non-ag buildings.
Well, if you can scroll down just a little bit, Teresa, just show, all right, that's good. And maybe zoom in a little bit. So on your map around the home site in the sort of the dashed blue line, which is a little hard to see, but that was what you had defined as the sort of the non-ag development envelope, the 2-acre envelope. And looking at the, particularly on the west side, so you've got that straight dashed blue line running along the tennis court and then down to, I think there's that detached garage. So everything just to the west of there is also incorporated within a hedged area. So it's not part of the ag operation. It's defined by that edge. So I would include that within the western boundary. Obviously, it's going to potentially affect how you calculate some things. I mean, it's pretty well developed, but surprisingly, it's close to the 2 acres. I think it's just all a matter of where you move the line. And so I'd like to hear comments from other committee members, particularly it's maybe you could have information. So
yeah, when I did this site plan, it was based on an archive site plan that was submitted for the I believe the construction of the guest house and the pool cabana.
Right.
And so I simply just overlaid it where they had it. But I do see what you're talking about. There is a hedge there along the road and those trees, and then some sort of kind of DG area.
Right. And then that's common that happens over time, that because I did look at some previous earlier aerial photos, and yeah, a lot of that area was not in, the hedge wasn't there, and obviously the 2 trees were there, but the hedge and some things were not there when the construction was happening.
Couldn't we propose to remove the hedge versus expanding the 2 acre? Because we can't make the 2 acre envelope bigger, right?
Correct. Yeah. So you're limited on that. I mean, I think the other thing that I was going to ask is in terms of patterns of movement of, so just going, for example, down to the barn, you've got the northeast driveway stubbing to connect to the DG road that goes to the north. But then once you get to the road kind of between the tennis court and then I guess that's the garage, it's unclear whether ag equipment continues around there and around the roundabout and out the main kind of grand entrance.
No, they would be coming in from the south. You see that there's a dirt access road and they have a secondary gate for, ag-related activities and deliveries and things like that. That's all takes place on that south dirt road.
Okay, so that's good. So no ag equipment. It's not a dual use road, kind of
Correct.
that extension that goes by the garage and the residence and the turnaround.
Yeah, that would be just for them to go up beyond the tennis court, and then you can see that's how they access the vineyards to the north.
Gotcha. Okay. So in that case, yeah, that portion of the road is all for the residents. So I think
Right.
the original comment in terms of either removing the hedge or moving it farther to the east to align with that boundary, probably would be a solution, one solution, but I don't know any other thoughts from committee members.
Mr. Chair, if the whole driveway coming into it is not for ag use, would not that need to be part of the 2-acre envelope also?
Well, no, it would be for ag use, but you can see where the driveway leads to the actual residential part of the driveway within the envelope. From there beyond into the east would not be for equipment, but they would use it to go to wrap around the tennis court, and then you see there's a road leading north through the middle of the vineyard.
But I think that's what your point was, Royce, right? Sort of the grand driveway that has all of the
Trees.
boulevard of trees on both sides of it between the house and the winery. It's really only serving access to the residents. And so if it's not a dual use road, that should be included within the envelope. Do they use kind of midway point? Like on the northerly parcel there, just on this photo, it looks like that kind of brownish green area. There's an open area along the tree line. Do they use that to access the northern parcel?
I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like they might.
There's a little gap in the tree line.
There's some kind of gate or some kind of,
Oh, there's a, oh yeah, you can see the shadow.
yeah. So this might be, yeah, so, I mean, obviously, the owners probably would make better input about that driveway. I would not assume that that driveway is not used without, explicit evidence. Otherwise, it would need to be in. But the way I had the access from 1998 file where it shows the original development envelope that was measured back then 1.33 acres. That was really just touching the tennis court and then wrapping around.
Was that a development envelope?
Yes,
for the permit?
for the
rather than
permit.
not an
Well,
envelope?
it was a egg preserve as well. In 1998, I mean, it was discussed by the committee. So that's probably how it expanded,
grows over time.
obviously.
As we see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think kind of running the list of additional information and questions that we have would be, starting from east to west, would be that main kind of Grand Boulevard driveway. Is any portion of, from obviously the far east portion so that provides access to the winery, that's dual use. So we don't have an issue with that, but from where kind of from the edge of the winery to the roundabout for the residents, is any portion of that dual use? And then we have a question of right up just north of the roundabout, that kind of area that looks like has hedges and may have some orchards or older.
Yeah, it looks like I have a little better aerial of that. I don't know if it is avocados or citrus trees.
At one
or
time, it looked like
something.
it might have been. So yeah, I guess the question is that personal use or part of a commercial ag commodity? I mean, right now it doesn't look like much of anything, but I guess to be clear, the most.
A new aerial photo, this is gonna refresh, so it's gonna get, you
Yes.
probably have it 2021, actually. Do you have 2021?
I have just on the photo mapper, which is
Yeah.
2018.
So there's a bunch of trees,
Right.
obviously.
So yeah, we'd want
I don't know
information
which
on that
one.
area and then um, on the far east side of the boundary, kind of come back with some option of addressing that area that currently looks like it's part of the residence and envelope with the hedge boundary, how that could be modified to exclude it from the non-ag development envelope. And then any other questions, comments?
So just to confirm,
Well, right now, what that blue line is, I believe what Zachary had copied from the original permit or was 2 acres and so.
Correct.
But we definitely need a better information, how these roads, drivers are used.
Correct.
And if the main driveway is dual use, as we mentioned, potentially, then even that area northwesterly from the roundabout could be serving some, dual use purposes.
Potentially, or they may need to convert it to a commercial rather than a,
Right,
and right now I think it's just it's a non-use,
right.
derelict use.
I'm talking about dirt road from the roundabout going up and then going up north. Potentially, it could be used to access the farmland up north because they don't have any other access there.
I think the garage was pretty recent. Yeah, Alex,
Yeah,
I
so
was
it
thinking
was-
at the very, right as you
Yeah, I
enter
agree.
in the roundabout, potentially, if they were to bring that into production, you can have a stub off directly to the north to access that area, but. Zachary, do you know when the garage in the kind of the north, southwest corner of the property?
I don't know precisely, but when I did go there, it looked like it was fairly new.
Looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no,
Presumably.
I agree with Alex and everybody here. I think the non-ag envelope needs to be updated. And we need to see that with the new configuration and then with the information as to what is the personal use versus the non-personal use.
Do you want that sort of thing called out on the site plan, or is that just something I would present to you as information?
Probably we'd want to have it like on something like this, like on an aerial base, because I think it'll be part of the conversations. There's a couple of moving pieces of depending
Right.
upon what constitutes a dual use road, and then obviously to the far east or to the far west side, the hedges and things.
And so if that roundabout and driveway leading up around the attached garage, that swings toward the tennis court, if all of that was considered dual use, in theory, then I could just shift the envelope and we wouldn't have to remove that hedge to the west of the tennis court.
Would have to be clearly used. Yeah, I think what I would do is that if you were coming in from the east, obviously all of that road getting to the roundabout would be dual use, and then the northern part of the roundabout, and then the road. So you would essentially bring in the non-ag envelope, to the
Green area.
to the green area side of the garage, and then the front lawn area of the residence, and then
Right.
include the most of the southerly half of the roundabout.
Okay.
So that could be, if it was, but doesn't look like it functions that way, and probably that's not how, for privacy and use, but that could be an option if that was,
Well, it gets a little funky because you can see that there's like a breezeway that they drive through to get to the garage, right? So they have to go around, the roundabout's really just for the fire department or for guests. They have to go around and then go through that breezeway to get to the attached garage.
correct. We were just talking about from ag equipment, so
Right.
they currently use that for accessing residential purposes. But if we were to count this as a dual use road, that means that the ag equipment and everything would need access to utilize that road around the northern roundabout and continuing west, up around the garage and then connecting to the current dirt road.
Right.
So I think it all depends upon what the,
And is the point here that you can't have ag equipment crossing through that envelope?
no, you can, but if ag equipment is gonna be using that on a regular basis to access the crops, then we can count it as a dual use. Well, we would consider it as a dual use road, and that does not count towards your 2-acre envelope.
2-acre. Okay, I understand.
Right now, it's just, serving the residents. So we do count that. And that's those are the kind of moving parts that may
Right.
affect the ultimate. So I think, talking with Brett and the owners.
Well, I
Based
wish
on-
Brett was involved. He's not. You're stuck with me.
No, but I mean, you may want to just consult with him as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it also just, like we said, depends upon what that current kind of area north of the roundabout is used for, or
Yeah.
if it is going to be brought into commercial production, then that could potentially, influence what counts towards dual use road and what doesn't. So,
Right.
but I think all of those things, whatever you think the pathway forward is of how you can meet the 2-acre envelope, you'd want to show that with the justification of why that you believe that's the correct location of the envelope boundary.
Yeah.
Because, certain things are going to be brought into production and therefore it's a dual use road, or whatever combination of approaches you work out with the owner.
Okay.
Does that make sense in terms of what we're looking at?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I don't think, as for going to the barn itself, I think we're generally okay. We don't really have any other questions for that, right? Okay.
It looks good.
Any other questions, Royce, that you might have?
I'm good on that.
Okay. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
Chair Lackey, we do not have any public comment.
Okay, great.
One final comment from me, from the assessor's side is the annual questionnaire is going to be mailed in January. So make sure that the property owner complies with that requirement. They've been very good in responding, but the last couple of years have not been received. So just a quick reminder,
Okay.
annual questionnaire. Thank you.
And that's I assume that's mailed to this property address. I imagine that this is not a permanent resident for them, so
We have an address. I think it is on this property in care
Okay.
of Jason Zhang.
okay.
Is that the current, because I had a question on the current owner.
I don't know who the current owner is. I've never met him or spoke to him.
Because that also, I mean, I guess we want to clarify that the current owner is the same owner that's on the Ag Preserve contract, because if it's a more recent owner.
Yeah, I'm dealing with or I've been working with 2 managers who represent the owner, who prefers to be anonymous, at least from what they've told me. And so that's been my point of contact. So that's Robbie Tella, I'm gonna butcher his last name.
Yeah, it's been under the same legal entity since 2010. But yeah, if there's an internal change in ownership, that also needs to be, well, that's a separate conversation
Yeah.
that needs to be reported.
Yeah, as far as I could see, when like I went to submit to the planning department, the owner of record in their system, right, which I think goes off of the assessor or the tax information, it was some sort of LLC that I had seen before on some other contracts and billing information. So
Right.
as far as I know, it's the same ownership.
It looks like it's a limited partnership. And like I said, it's been under the same Claxton Vineyard Limited
Yeah.
for the last 13, 14 years. But yeah, if there's an internal change in ownership, there was a question as to whether they need to also file an assumption of the contract. I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a question for county council. If it's held under the same title, but there was an internal change in ownership within the legal entity that holds title to the property, would there be a need to assume the contract by the new ownership?
Not if the entity is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Answer.
And Mr. Chair, if I could also, it's probably advised for the planner regarding the APNs. I believe there should be added the other APN into the application, because I don't know whether this is two separate legal parcels or if it is one single. There's no information on my side. So just in case issuing a permit, I think it should contain both APNs as for the permitting issues and also for
So-
our agenda as well.
Can this be something that we do now? Can we maybe propose a motion to amend the agenda item to include
I believe so.
second
yeah.
parcel that's part of the contract?
We can certainly do that.
Francisco from County Planning's here. I can maybe chime in on this. That was my oversight. I apologize. I didn't include the above APN. However, I did review the legal description, and it does indicate there's two different lots. It's lots 5 and lot 8 of tract 2 of the Rancho Canada de los Pinos. So I believe they are two separate parcels.
Zach, yeah, that's kind of a loaded question. It's not as simple as it reads. The Rancho map is fairly old map, and just starting with 1929, subdivision maps are regularly recognized as being created separate legal lots by just fact that map records. Prior to that, we need to look into the chain of title and parcel creation history. So what I see in the assessor's inquiry, it's been historically, it's been part of, described together, those two lots. So most could be very likely that two of them are never separated. And if they were sold as lots 6 and 7 or whatever it's the description to the same owner, it wouldn't be two parcels in that case. So
Got it.
yeah, so it is very complicated. It would require a certificate of compliance application to clear up how many legal lots we have out there.
Is that kind of after the fact that we've issued all these different permits for development on the southerly parcel?
It doesn't matter. Permits don't divide land, but it might give a wrong kind of hint to the owners that they have two separate lots and accidentally sell one, which would be a problematic thing from the subdivision map act.
Well, from what I saw from the assessor's map, it's pretty clear that it's one parcel with it has a property, it has a boundary line, and then the two lots essentially are divided by like a center line in between. So I mean, I assumed it was one lot when I was, initially drawing up the site. If it's any consolation.
Yeah, just to stay on the safe side, modifying the item on our agenda would be adding parcel 1 to the parcel 2 and have it under the same contract. And then also I would caution planning department for their permit to verify.
Yeah, and that's what I was, yeah, so I think they're two different steps. Certainly the first one of including both APNs reflective of the contract, we can do that further. The agenda,
That's
likely
right.
continuance, and then I think your guidance to planning as far as their application and what they characterize, I think that's been conveyed, so appreciate that. So Zachary, since we're probably considering a continuance with the information, would continuance to our December
Yeah, that'd be great.
meeting be appropriate? Okay.
Yeah. And I assume is that a do you guys have solidified dates for that? Because I know, sometimes it's a moving target, right?
So it'd be December 12th.
Okay.
And then Teresa, can you remind us when he would need to get information to the planner? That would probably, it's kind of odd because of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, so the information should get to the planner by the 29th of November.
Okay.
The 27th, because we're going to be closed, so
27th?
yes.
27th. Okay.
Is that
Okay.
still
No
okay with?
problem.
Okay.
All right, and we already asked if there was any public comment, and there wasn't. So I will move that we continue this item to our December APEC meeting to provide time for the applicant to respond to the information requests from the committee.
I will second.
You can do that administratively. Yeah. Thank you, Royce. So we have a motion and a second, and then I'll just add to the note that we will also be updating the agenda description for the continuance to include both APNs for the contract. So thank you, Royce, for the second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Matt Mayton.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
And then vote carries 5-0 to continue the item to the December meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Too. Bye-bye. All right, moving on to item number 7, Edison Sheffield Resiliency and Covered Conductor Program. Sam Broderson is the planner. Sam, are you here?
He is not online.
Yeah, is there any representatives for the project? I guess this is an SCE operation.
Yeah, this is Scott Warner. I'm a consultant for Edison. Sam was on the meeting. It looks like he had to leave.
Okay, great.
But
yeah, good morning, Scott. Thank you for being here. Could you give us kind of an overview of the project and reference us to any of the maps or materials that you think are helpful?
yeah, I'll just sort of read the first part of our CDP project description. So, so as part of the Sheffield 16 kV grid resiliency and covered conductor program, Southern California plans to replace 28 wood utility poles with fire-resistant composite poles, replace 13 wood utility poles with wood poles, and replace one fire-resistant composite pole with a fire-resistant composite pole, install one new intraset wood pole, which is a new installation, and replace all existing overhead bare conductor with insulated conductor. So there's a total of 43 sites with one pole per site. And And yeah, so basically this is a maintenance action that just involves replacement of the the bare wire with covered conductor to reduce the fire risk, and then as well replacing the wood poles with fire resistant poles. And many of the poles have to be slightly increased in height to accommodate the heavier covered conductor. And so there's no it's like I said, there's one excuse me, there's one one new pole installation in a it's in an avocado orchard up off of Highway 192, and then but yeah, overall it's not there's no sort of increase in service or anything that would involve kind of a new development or new new increase in service. So most of the replacements are truck replacements. Well, truck or hand install. There's a couple of helicopter replacements, but it's kind of just your standard Edison maintenance action. Like if you have if you have power poles in your neighborhood and there's they're replacing them a lot right now to get all the old fire prone dangerous poles replaced. And so it's kind of just a basic maintenance action that you might see in any neighborhood. And in terms of the ag preserve, yeah, there's, like I said, there's one new pole in an avocado orchard, and that's about it in terms of any sort of impact on the ag properties involved, the ag preserve properties. I don't actually have a list of the ag contracts involved here, but maybe you all have that. I'm not sure.
So Scott, question in terms of accessing the different poles. It sounds like most of them are accessible from current roads. Is there a need to have any new grading to access any of these sites?
No, it's all existing roads. No grading involved. Sorry, just reviewing what we included in the application here. Yeah, no grading, some minor tree trimming, and kind of removal of standard kind of removal of combustible brush around some of the poles in terms of the 10-foot radius around a pole. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Is there any, and maybe it was a different project that I was thinking about, but still relates to my question. Is there any equipment staging area that's needed for this project that is proposed to be located on contracted land?
No, we don't have anything like that. It's typically kind of roadside areas to stage, kind of road shoulder areas or previously disturbed areas. We don't actually have the specific there's no staging areas provided by construction yet. So typically, they would have a yard nearby and they would send their crews out to it's kind of just like one pole at a time, maybe one or two if they're right next to each other. So it's usually just kind of a completely mobile operation where they just take everything with them and on site and then remove all the old equipment and hardware.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from committee members?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and I don't know if we can do this. But on the agenda, we don't show the contracts. It's obvious because there's multiple contracts and multiple parcels. But with our information that was provided, there is a list. So I'm just wondering if the agenda for these types of projects, if we should have something on the agenda that says multiple or something, or like see or contact, in this case, it would be Teresa, I guess, for a list, just in case there's the public reading the agenda and they want to know, oh, where is this going to happen? You know, we're seeing the committee, we are seeing the material, but somebody who's just briefly looking at the agenda is not going to have any idea where this is. And anyway, that's my comment. Not suggesting maybe it's just for the committee to discuss.
No, I think it's a good comment, that we can kind of work with the planner because we, once or twice a year, we have kind of these kind of linear utility type of projects that we see. And so I think that might be a good addition to our kind of the agenda language that provides some reference of where people can get that information. So I think we can pass that along to the planners.
Yeah, it looks like this is a perfect opportunity to use GIS software and kind of overlay these. Obviously, this was kind of probably either CAD or GIS software that used to draft these plans. So it would be easy to just overlay that or underlay that with the APNs, and
Right.
we would, be able to pull the ag preserve contracts out of it. So that would be a good approach to do that way.
Okay.
Wouldn't take much time, obviously.
Right. Royce, do you have any comments or thoughts, questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. Matt, you're good? Teresa, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
Chair Lackey, we do not have any public comment.
Okay, great. So I would make a motion that we consider the request for the Edison Sheffield Resiliency and Covered Conductor Program consistent with the uniform rules, specifically Rule 2-9 regarding gas, electric, water, and communication facilities.
I'll second.
And then we'll do roll call. Matt Mayton.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
And the vote carries 5-0.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Werner, for your time.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to our last new item is Booby Trap Capital LLC grading case. Kevin De Los Santos is the planner, and Jeanette DeLuca is the agent. Kevin, are you available online?
Hi, yeah, this is a planner. I'm available.
Okay, great. Do you want to give us a quick overview of the project?
Sure. The applicant, the project site has an existing cannabis cultivation site. The applicant is proposing to do a land use permit strictly for grading, which the applicant can probably provide some better insight, but it is for, I believe, stormwater control or erosion work. But I'll defer to the applicant for the rest of the scope.
Okay. Ms. DeLuca, did you want to provide any additional
Yes.
information?
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, APAC committee, for having us here. On behalf of Canyon Produce, I think I should probably just read real quick that agenda item, and it is that we are proposing 810 cubic yards of cut and fill to level out the existing culvert areas in the water course as required by California Department of Fish and Wildlife and its consistency with the uniform rules. Consider ongoing eligibility of the property as an agricultural preserve consistent with the uniform rules and any enforcement actions pursuant to Uniform Rule 6. So on behalf of Canyon Produce and APN 101-080-086, which is a licensed cannabis cultivation site, we have 3 sites, And if you want to take a look at the file that is called, let's see here. I know you have a lot of them. I would go to the Canyon Produce _ APAC. And page 2, you'll see that there are 3 APNs under this ag preserve. And basically, we're talking about the southerly one, the 086. So with that, we're addressing CDFW notice of violations by stabilizing the existing drainage channel. If you want to take a look at the grading index C 2.0, which is called, you just had it up, but it's called Canyon Produce Grading Index. Or Kevin had it up, maybe someone had it up.
The two more tabs over the far, yeah.
There you go. And so with this, can you scroll down a little bit, please, so I can see the date on this one? Okay, there's a different one that I sent over. Could you please open up the civil plans? They're called Canyon Produce, sorry, civil - stabilization plan. Do you have that one?
Is it the one I have up right now?
It's dated. Could you scroll down just a little bit? It's dated. Yeah, that's the one. So if you could scroll to C - 2.0, please. What you'll see here is, there we go. That one's the correct one. So with that, you're seeing that it involves 810 cubic yards of cut and fill by looking at the red and the blue around the channel to correct it. And let's see, in addition, we've worked closely with CDFW, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Water Board, and the Santa Barbara Land Trust. To date, we've received approval from the Water Board to proceed and green light from CDFW, U.S. Fish and Wildlife to submit our final plans. And per the Habitat Protection Plan, and that one is called, let's see here. That one is called your final _ Canyon Produce Habitat. Do you have that one? Or one that says Habitat. I can also share if you'd like. There's one called, it's called Canyon Produce / WST. That was provided. Well, what it's showing is that we'll be providing 8.02 acres into protected habitat. And that's our that's what our habitat protection plan is with our biologists in connection with what we've gone over with the departments and agencies I just mentioned. So we need to secure a grading permit from Santa Barbara County now, as it's essential to allow us to proceed with the necessary rectification of the violations in a timely manner. And would you like me to email you that proposed Western Speedfoot Toad Habitat Protection Area that I'm addressing or discussing?
I mean, as long as the planners have that, I mean, it's not, I think,
Okay.
germane necessarily to our
Okay.
consideration, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other information you wanted to provide at this point?
No, other than what I said, like we really do need to get this permitted. We need the grading permit in order to do the groundwork. So this is timely and your acceptance is appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Question, David.
Yes.
So is this work required? You're going through your cannabis license renewal, right? At this time?
No.
Oh, you're not, okay, I thought you were,
Mhm.
Canyon Produce, your cannabis license?
Yeah,
I was
we are,
wondering, is this required for the renewal or is this a separate issue?
this is completely separate.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the only comment from the assessor's office is that the assessors, I don't know if you've heard me discuss this with previous items, is we send out the annual questionnaire. We haven't received one for this property, for this contract since 2020. So my comment would be to have the property owner respond to the questionnaire. We're sending the new one in January, so I guess we can wait. But I do want to confirm the information you provided, because according to the latest information we had was it was irrigated crop. So now, how many acres of cannabis do you have?
Stacy, do you want to answer that?
Hi there, my name's Stacy O'Neill. I'm employed by the owner and operator as well. So we are licensed for 62.47 acres of cannabis cultivation. For the season of 2024, we have cultivated 25 acres on this southern parcel, which ends in 086. And then I would like to comment also on that questionnaire that you'll be sending in January. So we only signed and assumed I guess, possession of ownership of the ag preserve in December of 2023. So I'm happy to follow up and make sure that we respond to the documents, but I would like to maybe just confirm what address it is being sent to. And if not, I can reach out separately and provide an updated address for that.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. Yeah, the mailing address that we have on record is 8911 North Capitol.
Okay, yes,
of
that's since
Texas.
been changed.
That's been changed. This is in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So yeah, if there's a need to update the mailing address, then that's a process you need to do through the assessor's office, and I can send you the form after the meeting. You mentioned that there was a change in owner. Was there a change in ownership in 23? Because I showed the title hasn't changed since 2019. In 2019 is when Booby Trap Capital purchased.
Yes, so
property.
it is still owned by Booby Trap Capital, but there was an internal majority ownership change. So
Okay, gotcha.
that has shifted from what was previously Jonathan Swope and is now assumed by John DeJoria.
Okay.
And I have I dealt with getting the signature and everything myself, so I do have the document, which was dated December 4th of 2023.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think that was necessary based on what county council just confirmed a little while ago.
Okay.
But my just my final question is the cultivation of cannabis, is that leased or is that done by the owner? Is it leased out to
It
Canyon?
is
I know
it
you
is
mentioned
leased.
Canyon.
Yeah, the operator leases the land from the owner, Booby Trap Capital.
Okay, gotcha. And there's a question on the questionnaire about, if it's being leased. I strongly encourage to provide that information on that questionnaire that we'll be getting soon.
Of
So
course,
just
okay.
to reiterate what you said, you would like to have us wait until January to fill out the questionnaire, but in the meantime, update the mailing address with the assessor's office.
Correct.
Okay. We will handle that immediately.
Teresa, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
Chair Lackey, we do not have any public comment.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Luca, just to confirm, I'm just looking at the aerial. I don't see any structures, but I don't believe there's any structures on the contract, correct?
Correct.
Good. And you're okay with
I'm okay, yeah.
not holding this up for the,
Not holding it up.
House.
It's, they are cultivating it and
you have those numbers?
we have the numbers.
Okay. Okay, very good. So I will make a motion that we find the request for the grading permit application on contract 93 AP 001, consistent with the uniform rules.
Second.
Thank you. Have a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Matt Mayton. Alex.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Sergio Ricardo. And the vote carries 5-0.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you very much.
All right. So now we move into discussion items. We have one item just over their LLC. And I believe Sergio, you have some information on this item for discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna read off my notes here. So as you all know, in recent years, maybe the last couple of years, the assessor's office has brought to APAC's attention contracts that are divided or split by different ownerships. The splits occur when an owner of a multi-parcel contract unintentionally sometimes sells a portion of the contract and retains the other portion. And so we see these at the when the deeds record and they come to the assessor's office. So we get the first look at when a contract is potentially split by different ownership. That results in non-compliance due to the different ownership. And so we have been bringing these things from time to time to this committee. There are some owners, on the other hand, that are aware of the process and the uniform rules, and they do go through the formal process of requesting APAC, the approval for the split. And in the past, APAC has typically allowed, on some occasions, I don't know what the percentage is versus the denials. But it's unclear as to whether the replacement contracts that were approved, whether the portions that didn't get a replacement, whether they got the same review. So typically, I'm looking at typically the portion that is not being replaced is probably not getting enough review of compliance or eligibility requirements. I may be incorrect, and I apologize. I don't want to say the wrong thing here. in any event, sometimes we have eligibility issues because of maybe limited review of the portions that were not replaced. And this is one example. So I'm bringing to your attention contract 74 AP 034. This originally was part of a 3-parcel contract. And we see it on the screen there. It's the one in red. There's one, yep, right there. You can click on that one. That's the driveway, the access to the contract. That's the second parcel. And the third parcel that actually got a replacement contract is the one to the north of that. Yeah.
This one?
That one. So that was originally part of this contract, 74 AP 34, but it did get a replacement in the past. So it's been replaced. It now has a new contract. And the way we used to do this is the remaining portion that didn't get replaced would keep the same contract number, the original contract number, and then it would just remain in the program. So my question here is, the assessor's office is seeking guidance from the committee here on whether we need to bring these remaining original contracts to the committee for review whenever there's a change in ownership. And I wouldn't do this just because it would need to be something happening, like a change in ownership, specifically a change in ownership, such as was the case for this contract, 74 AP 34. Do you guys want to see these when a change in ownership comes up? Do we want to, or the alternative is we just let them. They were essentially approved when the other portion was replaced. So that's what I wanted to discuss with you guys. I'm happy to do either, but I don't want to, again, the assessor is not, we don't want to take the role of enforcing rules. We're willing to do what the committee decides.
Yes, I found a lot line adjustment in 1997 that caused the boundaries to change. So there is the top lot there that's under the contract currently, right? The hatched area.
So the parcel that we're showing now, that's the one that did get its own new contract. So it's 98 AP 012.
And then the bottom two APNs
these two.
are actually one single parcel, lot 1 of that lot line adjustment.
Okay.
So even though they have
Two APNs is one legal lot.
And I guess there was an opportunity back in 1997 when the
Or
lot line
these ones to
adjustment,
get their own. and-
yeah, separate contracts. So it looks like one lot got a new contract, the other lot, I'd say it probably, there probably was some discussion. I'd probably find it in the minutes
Yeah.
somewhere
Right.
if I'm lucky.
So yeah, no, I don't deny that there was some level of review, but I don't know.
But I definitely would think it's important to keep it clean and make sure the lot 1 of that lot line adjustment is, first of all, qualified for the Williamson Act contract, and then to actually make sure that they want to do it and they know about it. So.
Right. It's particularly, I think to me, it's more necessary, if I can offer my opinion. When you're dealing with a super prime contract, this is a super prime contract. Total acreage is 11.12. And when we were reviewing when the assessor's office was reviewing the change in ownership, just didn't seem like there was enough agriculture. And maybe even the non-ag envelopes were
Yeah.
side of the.
Perhaps the minutes from that lot line adjustment project would maybe indicate what the idea was for and I don't know how many owners obviously were involved in the lot line adjustment.
I believe it was only one.
Okay, yeah, then in that case, perhaps there was a decision made, maybe we didn't follow up with the non-renewal part for the entire contract. So that's where I think a good idea would be to just start with non-renew initially and then let the new owners decide whether they want a new contract. So because we have that, a year of processing time where we probably could, get it clear by the new owners whether they want to stay in the old contract. So if we kind of abandon that old contract and then have these new contracts or replacement contracts step in as the new owners prefer, then we would not have that. My understanding is we provide that benefit to the old contract that's covered as a remainder of what's now just a portion of it in the contract.
So Sergio, can you restate it came to the assessor's office's attention because of a recent change in ownership for the Southerly 2?
Correct. So the Southerly 2 changed ownership they recorded a deed on July 12, 2024. So now we have a new owner for those 2 parcels. And as you can see, the name is Just Over There LLC. And so again, we're the assessor's office to make clear, we're not actively looking for these things. Of course, we are reviewing changes in ownership or whatever needs to be reassessed. And in this case, it just happens that they came across our desk and the question came up, and I wanted to, and it's been a question that I've been having, as you guys heard earlier, with Chevron and Tompkins. Our process is slightly different now, where we try to non-renew the entire contract and then go forward with the replacements. That's not how it used to be. And I don't know, for whatever reason, and again, I'm not saying that they weren't reviewed for eligibility requirements. They probably were. But most likely the focus was on the portion that was being replaced, not the remaining portion.
And and I tried to look into the files. There wasn't, at least our APAC agendas and minutes electronically, they only go back to 98. I looked in the files for the lot line adjustment, and at least my understanding at that time is that these 2 southerly parcels there wasn't any house on that. I think the house application for the house came in the early 2000s, like 2003 or 2004. And I guess I'm dating myself, but I was on APAC at that time because I remember this property. And obviously that I don't have any recollection of the context, but as it related to the lot line adjustment. But at the point in time, APAC would presumably have looked at the eligibility of this as a super prime contract at a point in time. And I think at a minimum, since there was a more recent change of ownership, that they would need to get to assume a contract, whether it's the 70, is it 74?
34.
Yeah. So either they would need to, at a minimum, assume that contract and understand the responsibilities of that contract.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about the assumption process. But typically, the assumption process is done without any APAC review. The property owner just finds the application online or your BND website and submits or recording the assumption. So again, yeah, the assessor is happy to do what the committee thinks should be appropriate. So that's where I'm at. I've always had this this question, and and I thought this is a perfect example that I can bring to show, because this is not this not very common, but it comes up.
Yeah, I'm just reading the conditions of approval of a lot line adjustment. Conditional number 19 says applicant will voluntarily apply for agricultural preserve replacement contracts prior to recordation of the lot line adjustment. So there was probably one application, or there were probably two applications. One went through, the other probably didn't for whatever reason.
How old is that, Alex?
This is 1998.
Those were conditions on the lot approval of the lot line.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, it might have just slipped through or something. I mean,
Yeah, they probably applied and then never finalized the second one, the lot number one. Perhaps they didn't qualify or whatever.
oh, yeah, I mean, I guess that could have been an issue, but I mean, yeah, I mean, we see that, a lot of the ones, in Casmelia area, or not Casmelia, Kuyama area. We see that happening. I guess I have a question for council, is that in the normal course of events where there's a change of ownership and they need to assume the contract, I don't know what happens behind the screen and all of that. I know council is involved in walking through what the contract requirements. In this case, we're referencing the old contract that presumably references different boundaries that don't relate to the current ownership. I mean, does it create an issue with the intent is to inform them of the responsibilities, but it's not relating, the old contract doesn't relate to their current ownership?
I mean, it can. It's sort of an issue of the boundaries. We have here too is two different definitions of change of ownership. Under the broader law, there is no change of ownership. The LLC owns it and continues to own it. The assessor's office considers a change of ownership of more than 50% of the LLC. So you have, while that LLC still has the contract, county views that as a change of ownership under the assessor and the tax law.
Although, Tyler, in this case, it was that was not the case.
Right,
This was not the case.
It's very broadly, yeah.
Yeah. In this particular case, yeah, there was a full change in ownership with, this was a listed sale. Property was listed in the open market, and the new owner just happens to be at an LLC.
Then yes, at some point, it'd probably be advisable for these types of properties to work with planning and revise the contract in it's essentially non-material way, I guess, just to make it reflect the current reality of the lot line adjustment.
Yeah, I mean,
I
think this has a domino effect, because like you said, if that's the direction that they have to get a new contract, they're already over their 10,000 square foot allowance.
Correct. And there's a barn that's also being used as a residence.
And that-
Wasn't-
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
As a residence?
correct. It was even on the actual listing, open to the public.
This here?
Studio, apartment. That one.
David, you're right. As it stands, when we do the assumptions, we just send out 2 letters. The letter says, here is the old contract. We're just going to copy and paste your name over the top of it. Maybe there's somewhere in the planning stage of this where the planning looks at this before it comes up and says, hey, wait a minute. That original contract's not going to be applicable anymore. We can't assume this contract due to changes in size, scope, et cetera.
I guess I'm APAC as an advisory body. Do we have the foundational pathway to send out a letter saying that we think you need a new contract? Because I think it has consequences that they may not qualify.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we need to probably go back through the rules and deeper dive, but we can't assume a contract that's not like for like, ish. I mean, there's gonna be a little wiggle room there, but
And it could have even been, let's just say, there wasn't any issue with the contract. It was just a change of ownership that came across the assessor's office. And there was, that also happens is that those often come to the committee for consideration if it looks like, oh, sometimes they're not doing any ag or something, that looks like there's issues with their contract, and we send, we may then, the pathway forward, maybe have a notice to appear. I think that part is still common. I think you notice an ownership, and you also looked at the property and looked at there's potential ongoing eligibility issues. So maybe one pathway forward is just to request the owners, or request the chair send out of a notice to appear so that we can get more information. Maybe they're planning to do something. At least we have information, and that conversation starts about potential ongoing eligibility issues. And
APAC always has authority to check eligibility of any contract. I mean, that is, you could pull an APN off the list and call them in next month. I mean, that is within your purview.
Yeah. So they might not be even aware that they are in the contract. There is probably a lot of cases where people just don't understand what they inherit with the property. But going back to the general discussion about these, I'd prefer to see a new contract whenever there's an overlap of the contract boundary. So let's say you have one contract, lot line adjustment happens, there's one contract on one lot, the second lot is not, it's still obviously under the old contract. We should, I don't know, is it non-renew is a good way, maybe to give people opportunity to understand what the tax benefit would it be, and get into a new contract while it's in non-renew process. It's kind of a slow shift, and plenty of time to make a decision. But having overlapping boundaries of the contracts, from me as a surveyor, it just doesn't make any sense. I'd rather eliminate the underlying contract immediately, or start non-renewal immediately, and kind of that way force people to make that decision.
I was in line with everything you said until that last part, because I think that's different than our recent practice, is that, and I agree that it's the challenge of the time it takes to get both parties to move forward. I think what our objective has been is when we see these multiple owners or change in ownership. I mean, lot line adjustment is its own animal, but if it's just it was a multi-parcel contract and some of those got sold off, we contact both of the property owners that they need to get and apply for their own either replacement or new contract. Often, unfortunately, one of those owners is not as responsive as the other. And at a point in time, if we do approve either a replacement or a new contract for one of them, then we take action on the other one to non-renew the rest of the old contract number. Aside from the time it takes in process-wise, I think it makes sense of how we treat the old contract to not to, because it depends on what time of the year. You know, if we were to say immediately we are going to non-renew the existing contract, and that's in June, we may not hear from individual landowners and getting their applications in time, and then we're at the board and we may be taking action to non-renew the entirety of it. I mean, hopefully it'll work, you know, the other applications for new contract or replacement will catch up, and it may not have significance, but yeah.
Isn't that non-renewal providing that gradual process of losing the benefit, right? Is there any penalty, or is there anything that hits the owner who doesn't have the opportunity to put a new contract in place while it's being non-renewed?
There's no penalty, and the property owner does have plenty of time, even if this committee and the Board of Supervisors approved the non-renewal, property owner can still protest and not get higher taxes for the first, I forget, 4 years, to allow for time to bring the contract into compliance. So there's plenty of time. So yeah, there's no penalty. There's nothing that penalizes the property owner. But yeah, the only consequence is if it goes into non-renewal and the property starts to lose the tax benefit. The biggest increase is in the first couple of years. That's the biggest increase in the taxes. They're going to see it right away.
I think you can look at it two ways. I think in that scenario, you may, in some circumstances, unwittingly penalize the landowner that's trying to get an application, or that, you know, they just may not have gotten it sequenced correct, versus our current process probably benefits the non-responsive owner, because based on the timing of the year, they may just dip into the non-renewal doesn't happen and they get another 11 years or 11 months of benefit, you know, of the tax. And so I think that's also the consideration that we have to balance. I mean, I do appreciate the assessor when they do find these to bring them to the committee. I think from a process wise, you know, I think we try as best as we can to keep people in the program and give the benefit of the doubt and try to get them, you know, to speed up and get their application in as soon as possible. But
I guess one option is I could bring them as discussion items, and then we just discuss them and not. But then again, this option also brings it to the committee's attention, and so now you have to say, okay, well, it doesn't look like they're in compliance, so we're going to bring it to the property owner's attention and potentially start non-renewal. So that's where I'm at. I don't know if you just. I'm okay either way. The assessor's office again is not pretending they want to be the policing agency that
Sergio, Rule 6.2 addresses some of these scenarios. It says, you know, if it's sold as this or sold as this or family. Have you looked through that? Does that address your concerns? Or it may not, they're kind of broad, but
yeah,
it does play through a couple of those options of how these,
right,
what APAC should do in those scenarios.
But again, I think this section 6-2 is the one I always refer to when there's that change in ownership that I always bring in now, that the assessor's office has brought to the committee the last couple of years. Yeah, so there's a change in ownership. It's breaking or splitting the contract. We immediately put it on the agenda. We have currently there's one with Stephanie, just waiting for her to give the green light, and we'll put it on the agenda. But yeah, so we are aware. It's just the ones that were past contracts that actually got exactly. Yeah. And again, they're not very common, but they do come up there from time to time.
Yes, still your office is the best place to recognize these and bring it up to the committee.
In a hypothetical, let's say it came to our attention just because they have an application in, to do an ADU or something. Do we?
I was thinking of assessors, no, of planning.
Oh.
I do see when it gets in the spotlight is only some application with planning, but with the assessor, it's kind of revolving process where, and even now with GIS, I'd say, the overlapped contracts could be recognized just by running GIS query and see. I'm assuming there are old boundaries in GIS, or at least I do have the old contracts in files. So I could see when a new contract sits on a portion of an old contract that we don't have any action on that portion that's remaining. That's typically a situation where they might be, complying, but like in this case, we are running into super prime and running into the issues with the neighboring properties and how would they qualify, and it's a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think of a hypothetical if, if the way it came to our attention, what first was because they have an application that was on our agenda to look at, and we said, oh, this has a 70, AP, and it was part of this, it's the remaining parcel of this larger contract, and they never got their own. I guess, at that point in time, that would be a decision for the committee to decide, would they request that the applicant now also resubmit for a new contract. I think, if it was this property in particular, and we found out, which we at least understand from the original lot line, that was there's other supporting evidence that there was a condition of the lot line adjustment that they were supposed to, these owners weren't involved, but there was supposed to be a new contract. I think that further supports, potential recommendation that they get a new contract. So, I guess taking a step back, I think I would encourage the assessors to continue when they do identify these to put them on the discussion, and there may be nuances that come out that we haven't contemplated yet, but I think some of them may then lead to at least pathway to get it on the agenda as a regular item and having a notice to appear. But I think those would be my thoughts. I would encourage the assessors to continue to at least bring relevant ones for the committee to discuss.
The question now is
for this one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I didn't mean to. Again, it just happened that this was a perfect example of what I've been wanting to discuss. And I'll leave it up to the committee.
So these discussion items, do we have to notify the owners about being on the agenda or?
That's a good question.
We're not taking any action.
Right.
I think as part of this discussion, it may lead to us having a recommendation to put this item on the regular agenda. And as part of that, obviously they'll be notified and have a notice to appear. So I think that is, I'm not,
So we cannot take any action here, nor the recommendation, right? From
Your recommendation could be to agendize it at a later meeting for proper discussion with the
and that
applicant
probably
present,
involves the
notice
chair
of-
sending a notice to appear, working with the assessor to send an appropriate notice to appear with the information to the owners.
the motion.
I was gonna see if there's any, I guess we have to see if there's any public comment on our discussion items.
Chair Lackey, we do not have any public comment.
So yeah, I think based on the information, we'll work with the chair in the assessor's office to send a letter to the property owners, advising them that the item will be, the intent is to place the item on a future APAC agenda for discussion of ongoing eligibility.
Mr. Chair, but this is not a motion, right? We're not taking
It's just a
a recommendation.
It's a recommendation to coordinate with the chair to put this on a future APAC agenda. And really just to send out a notice to appear as the vehicle to achieve that. So that would just be, we don't have to vote on that, right? It's just part of our elective comments. Okay. Any others?
If you're ready to go to report.
Yeah, so if we have any reports of committee members?
Yeah, the assessor has a little list of items that were recorded in October. October was a busy month for the for your department, Mr. Chair, P&D. If you're ready with your pencils, there was an assumption of a contract recorded on the 8th of October. And that was for contract 96 AP 005. Landon assumed the contract. And we have a couple of, or maybe 3 non-renewals that were recorded on October 22nd. Contracts affected were 03 AP 012 Clinton Air, 03 AP 014 3350 Foothill Road, and contract 76 AP 069. Now this had a sub split, non-official split by the assessor. So technically by assessor's records, 76 AP 069D, 76 A1 69C, 76 A2 069C, 76 A3 069C, and the owners for those were Aguila G Boys, Woodward, Torres, and Blue Sky. For the Kuyama by the airport. And so those were the non-renewals recorded in October. I understand for next month, I'll have some additional ones that were recorded in early November, early this month. And I'll report to those.
And so Sergio, those, all that you had mentioned, the non-renewals, those are ones that were county initiated that went to the board.
Correct. Yeah, all of these are county initiated. I don't think I saw any owner-initiated
You
non-renewals.
capture those as well, as regular.
Yep.
You see if it gets recorded, right? If it's
We,
an owner
we, the only
recording.
way we see them is if they were recorded. So yeah.
Yeah, it has been busy for my office preparing legal descriptions that are sometimes complicated because of the change in the boundaries
Right.
or non-existing boundary of the contract does not align with the new boundary lines of the legal parcel. So it is challenging sometimes.
I believe these contracts were non-renewed back in 2020.
Yeah, there's a
2021.
lot of catch up that are finally being processed through, and that's kind of why it caught several board members' attention when they saw a lot of these, this high activity of non-renewals, and partly it was related to that. And it created a lot of, work effort in a short period of
That
time.
are, not funded.
All right, thank you, Sergio, for those reports. Any other reports from committee members?
I wanted to ask you, you attended the meeting, board meeting.
Yes, so I can give a quick update just as far as the Ag Enterprise Ordinance that went to the board on November 5th. And they continued it to the board hearing on December 10th. And so there's some discussion of uniform rules that board members want the same AEO uses on non-contracted land as on contracted land. And so that's part of we'll see what direction where the board goes. There's some also, one of the mitigation measures in the IR recommends specific language to amend the uniform rules related to small scale campgrounds. And so the board is going to need to address how they're going to accept or modify that mitigation measure. So yeah, I'll have a more definitive update of where they land probably at our December 12th meeting, because we anticipate the board wants to take action to approve it on the 12th or on the December 10th. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll adjourn the APEC meeting. It's 11:23.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Royce.
Bryce?
Bye-bye.